upon graduating in September 1785, Bonaparte was commissioned a second lieutenant in La Fère Artillery Regiment. He served in Valence and Auxonne until after the outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789, but spent long periods of leave in Corsica, which fed his Corsican nationalism. In September 1789, he returned to Corsica and promoted the French revolutionary cause. Paoli returned to the island in July 1790, but he had no sympathy for Bonaparte, as he deemed his father a traitor for having deserted the cause of Corsican independence. Bonaparte plunged into a complex three-way struggle among royalists, revolutionaries, and Corsican nationalists. He became a supporter of the Jacobins and joined the pro-French Corsican Republicans who opposed Paoli's policy and his aspirations to secede. He was given command over a battalion of Corsican volunteers and promoted to captain in the regular army in 1792, despite exceeding his leave of absence and a dispute between his volunteers and the French garrison in Ajaccio. In February 1793, Bonaparte took part in the failed French expedition to Sardinia, following allegations that Paoli had sabotaged the expedition and that his regime was corrupt and incompetent. The French National Convention outlawed him. In early June, Bonaparte and 400 French troops failed to capture Ajaccio from Corsican volunteers, and the island became controlled by Paoli supporters. When Bonaparte learned that the Corsican Assembly had condemned him and his family, the Bonapartes fled to Toulon on the French mainland. Bonaparte returned to his regiment in Nice and was made captain of a coastal battery in July 1793. He published a pamphlet, Le Souper de Beaucaire, Supper at Beaucaire, demonstrating his support for the National Convention, which was heavily influenced by the Jacobins. In September, with the help of his fellow Corsican Antoine Christophe Saliceti, Bonaparte was appointed artillery commander of the Republican forces sent to recapture the port of Toulon, which was occupied by Allied forces. He quickly increased the available artillery and proposed a plan to capture a hill fort where Republican guns could dominate the city's harbor and force the Allies to evacuate. The successful assault on the position on 16 to 17 December led to the capture of the city. Toulon brought Bonaparte to the attention of powerful men, including Augustin Robespierre, the younger brother of Maximilien Robespierre, a leading Jacobin. He was promoted to brigadier general and put in charge of defenses on the Mediterranean coast. In February 1794, he was made artillery commander of the Army of Italy and devised plans to attack the Kingdom of Sardinia. The French army carried out Bonaparte's plan in the Second Battle of Sorgio in April 1794, and then advanced to seize Ormia in the mountains. From Ormia, it headed west to outflank the Austro-Sardinian positions around Sorge. After this campaign, Augustin Robespierre sent Bonaparte on a mission to the Republic of Genoa to determine the country's intentions towards France. After the fall of Maximilien Robespierre in July 1794, Bonaparte's association with leading Jacobins made him politically suspect to the new regime. He was arrested on August 9th, but released 2 weeks later, that he was asked to draw up plans to attack Italian positions as part of France's war with Austria. And in March 1795 he took part in an expedition to take back Corsica from the British, but the French were repulsed by the Royal Navy. From 1794, Bonaparte was in a romantic relationship with Désirée Clary, whose sister Julie Clary had married Bonaparte's elder brother Joseph. In April 1795, Bonaparte was assigned to the Army of the West, which was engaged in the war in the Vade, a civil war and royalist counter-revolution in the Vade region. As an infantry command, it was a demotion from artillery general, and he pleaded poor health to avoid the posting. During this period, he wrote the romantic novella Clisson et Eugenie, about a soldier and his lover, in a clear parallel to Bonaparte's own relationship with Clary. 64. In August, he obtained a position with the Bureau of Topography, where he worked on military planning. On September 15th, he was removed from the list of generals in regular service for refusing to serve in the Vade campaign. He sought a transfer to Constantinople to offer his services to Sultan Selim III. The request was eventually granted, but he never took up the post. 66-67. On October 3rd, royalists in Paris declared a rebellion against the National Convention. Paul Barras, a leader of the Thermidorian reaction, knew of Bonaparte's military exploits at Toulon and made him second in command of the forces defending the convention in the Tuileries Palace. Bonaparte had seen the massacre of the King's Swiss Guard during the insurrection of August 10, 1792 there 3 years earlier, and realized that artillery would be the key to its defense. He ordered a young cavalry officer, Joachim Murat, to seize cannons, and Bonaparte deployed them in key positions. On October 5, 1795, 13 Vendémiaire and 4 in the French Republican calendar, he fired on the rebels with canister rounds, described by Thomas Carlyle as the whiff of grapeshot. About 300 to 1,400 rebels died in the uprising. Bonaparte's role in defeating the rebellion earned him and his family the patronage of the new government, the French Directory. On October 26th, he was promoted to commander of the Army of the Interior, and in January 1796, he was appointed head of the Army of Italy. Within weeks of the Vendémiaire uprising, Bonaparte was romantically involved with Josephine de Beauharnais, the former mistress of Barras. Josephine had been born in the French colonies in the Lesser Antilles, and her family owned slaves on sugar plantations. The couple married on March 9, 1796, in a civil ceremony. Bonaparte began to habitually style himself Napoleon Bonaparte, rather than using the Italian form Napoleon di Bonaparte. First Italian Campaign. Main article: Italian Campaign of 1796 to 1797. Bonaparte at the Pont d'Arcole, by Baron Antoine Jean Gros, circa 1801. Musée du Louvre, Paris. 2 days after the marriage, Bonaparte left Paris to take command of the Army of Italy. He went on the offensive, hoping to defeat the Kingdom of Sardinia in Piedmont before their Austrian allies could intervene. In a series of victories during the Montenot campaign, he knocked the Piedmontese out of the war in 2 weeks. The French then focused on the Austrians, laying siege to Mantua. The Austrians launched offensives against the French to break the siege, but Bonaparte defeated every relief effort, winning the Battle of Castiglione, the Battle of Bassano, the Battle of Arcole, and the Battle of Rivoli. The French triumph at Rivoli in January 1797 led to the collapse of the Austrian position in Italy. At Rivoli, Austria lost 43% of its soldiers dead, wounded, or taken prisoner. The French then invaded the heartlands of the House of Habsburg. French forces in southern Germany had been defeated by Archduke Charles, Duke of Teschen, in 1796, but Charles withdrew his forces to protect Vienna after learning of Bonaparte's assault. In their first encounter, Bonaparte pushed Charles back and advanced deep into Austrian territory after winning the Battle of Tarvis in March 1797. Alarmed by the French thrusts that reached Leoben, about 100 kilometers from Vienna, the Austrians sued for peace. The preliminary Peace of Leoben, signed on April 18th, gave France control of most of northern Italy and the Low Countries and promised to partition the Republic of Venice with Austria. Bonaparte marched on Venice and forced its surrender, ending 1,100 years of Venetian independence. He authorized the French to loot treasures such as the horses of Saint Mark. Napoleon at the Battle of Rivoli, by Henri Félix Emmanuel Philippototos. In this Italian campaign, Bonaparte's army captured 150,000 prisoners, 540 cannons, and 170 standards. The French army fought 67 actions and won 18 pitched battles through superior artillery technology and Bonaparte's tactics. Bonaparte extracted an estimated 45 million French pounds from Italy during the campaign, another 12 million pounds in precious metals and jewels, and more than 300 paintings and sculptures. During the campaign, Bonaparte became increasingly influential in French politics. He founded two newspapers, one for the troops in his army and one for circulation in France. The Royalists attacked him for looting Italy and warned that he might become a dictator. Bonaparte sent General Charles-Pierre Augereau to Paris to support a coup d'état that purged Royalists from the legislative councils on September 4th, the coup of 18 Fructidor. This left Barras and his Republican allies in control again, but more dependent upon Bonaparte, who finalized peace terms with Austria by the Treaty of Campo Formio. Bonaparte returned to Paris on December 5, 1797 as a hero. He met Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, France's foreign minister, and took command of the Army of England for the planned invasion of Britain.